Well, welcome everyone. We appreciate you coming back for mission two of Agent Core License the Skill. I'm Artie Merritt, the BD go-to-market specialist for Bedrock here on the West Coast with my teammate John. Okay, all good. So as is mentioned, welcome back for mission two. So just as a recap, in mission one, we talked about Agent Core overall, and we shared some examples of how to build with Agent Core using our Strands SDK. And for today's session, we want to show how to leverage Agent Core with your existing frameworks, whether you're using something like LangGraph or a homegrown solution, Crew AI, whatever it is. Uh, The quick intro, I'm Artie Merritt, BD go-to-market specialist. As mentioned, Jean and I are teammates. He's the SA go-to-market specialist here for Bedrock and Agent Core on the West Coast. We're going to just do a quick overview on Agent Core, less than 10 minutes, just to give everyone a refresher and keep everyone up to speed. And then we'll get into the examples with Agent Core and the other third-party SDK frameworks and homegrown solutions. And so as a reminder, we built Agent Core really to help make AWS be the best place for you for your agentic AI workloads. And Agent Core itself is a new service that we announced back in July. It's currently in preview, and it comprises a series of components, or what we call primitives, that make it easier to build and deploy, maintain your agentic solutions, and really to deploy these in a scalable, secure way. And these are the components, our runtime environment, gateway, the identity, observability, memory, and then we have some built-in tools like the browser and code interpreter. And as we're going to dive into, you can use whatever framework or model you prefer to use. So first up is the runtime component, and that's exactly what it is. This is how you uh, can deploy and run your agent. So all you would do is containerize your agent. You can use any framework that you like, any model that you like. Obviously, we like folks using Bedrock models. For those that don't know, if you leverage Bedrock models, you can rest assured that the data is not being shared with the underlying model provider or AWS itself. So that can help give peace of mind if you're working with enterprises or PII data. But you're welcome to use any model provider, just like the frameworks as well. And then you simply deploy the container to runtime, and then we handle all the scaling. So you don't have to maintain or manage any of that. Agent Core Gateway, if folks are familiar with MCP servers, this is a way to access different tools. And I'm just going to jump over to show you real quick. You can use, we have all different types of tools you can access. So if I go into Gateway, these tools could be Lambda functions. They can be a REST API, things you can access via REST API, or we have some built-in integrations. Like here you can see integrations with PagerDuty, ServiceNow, Slack, any of these things. So this can help jumpstart your development a bit too. And one of the beauties of Gateway is the semantic search. So typically with the MCP, you would have to do a call to list all the tools. And we include a semantic search so it helps find the most relevant tool, and that can save you both the time, latency, but also all the token usage that might get involved with that. We have some built-in tools. So one of them is our code interpreter, which is basically a sandbox, hence the secret agent playing in the sand. What this does is it allows you to execute code in that sandbox environment so you can prevent potentially malicious things from happening. It just gives that additional peace of mind that you're developing and using agentic AI in a secure fashion. The other tool that we have is our browser tool. And this is, if folks are familiar, we have something called Nova Act, which is a browser control model. And this is much like a user interacting with the browser. You can have agentic AI control the browser, perform functions much like a user would. The next component is our identity component, and this handles all the authentication, not just the authentication into the agent. That's one piece, and that follows IAM protocols, Cognito you can use, but also the authentication into any of the tools or other services that you're calling, and that leverages OAuth. Um, and it handles the delegation too. So if you're integrating, say, with a Google Calendar or some other service, it could handle that delegation of the authentication, passing it along. The other component that we have is memory management, and this is both for short-term contextual memory, so the back and forth interactions the agent's having, as well as the long-term memory. And we have a couple of different approaches to the long-term memory. One is the user preferences. So imagine if you were building a code gen agent and a particular user preferred toggle case for their variables or method calls. You can remember that as user preference. So next time they ask for code to be generated, it could leverage that. The summary is exactly what it is, this summarization. So if you had a contact center agent, perhaps, and next time a person comes in, you could remember, pull up the summary of all their previous interactions to make use of that. And the semantic memory is your factual information that you want to maintain. Underlying all this is a layer of observability, and we follow the OpenTelemetry protocol, so it's OTel compliant. So you can make use of the built-in observability reports that we have within CloudWatch and all, but you can also leverage whatever BI tool you would like to use and ingest that data that way via OTel. And as I mentioned, just a quick summary again, these are different components, how it all interacts together. Today, we're going to focus on the leveraging AgentCore with third-party solutions and homegrown solutions. And lastly, just so folks are aware, we do have a agentic marketplace. It's the AWS marketplace where you can find agentic tools to leverage to help with your development. And for startups out there that might be interested, this could be an opportunity for you too if you would like to have your offering listed in the marketplace. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jean to take care of all the demos.
All right. Hey team, thanks for coming back for mission number 2. I'm going to take over the screen. I'm going to show you how we can easily deploy a land graph defined agent into AgentCore. And for that, just give me a second to make sure everything is well loaded into my environment. And then I'm going to share my screen.
Just so as Jean's getting set up, if folks have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We can try to respond in real time, or you can, if you prefer, you can wait till the end too. So whatever you like, the chat's available there.
All right. So I am going to do and almost there, and I'm sharing my screen. My screen should be coming up.
Yep.
All right, excellent. So what we're going to demonstrate is basically a super easy way of hosting a LangChain agent within AgentCore. But before that, we need to have a problem to solve. So since this is an agent, a spy themed training slash demonstration, we're going to work on being able to send encrypted messages between an agent in the field and the home and his home office. So what we're going to do is we're going to define an agent that has 2 tools, one that is going to be called Cipher, and one that is going to be called Decrypt. So basically, the idea there is our agent is going to be able to send a postcard with basically a sonnet, poem, and he wants to encrypt a message into it. So what we're going to say is basically, well, the third character of each line of our poem is going to be the character that we want to send within our message. So to do that, I've used LangGraph, and our LangGraph is going to be super simple. I have a create sonnet cipher tool that basically I've given it a few examples to make it to make it better, but I am using in this case direct call to a model to do to create the sonnet itself, and then I'm going to have a decipher sonnet uh, uh, tool that I've defined in LangGraph, and then I'm creating my agent that can do both things. And what I'm doing as well is I'm giving it a system message that tells it, hey, you're a helpful assistant. You can create Sonnet with hidden messages, and you can decipher them afterwards. So this is pretty simple to set up within LangGraph. And then I'm giving it both my tools, and I'm giving it the definition of how I want my agent to execute overall. I've put prints everywhere so you can see when I'm creating my agents, when my agent initialization is successful, and when all of that works well. So once I have all of that well prepared, what I can do is I can run it locally. So let's do a run locally, and let's say that I want to send all OK byte to base. So here what it's doing is it's doing its execution locally. So I have my notebook that is executing, and it is all working pretty well. So here I can see that it is sending me, and my prompt is not great because it's modifying just my message, and the message isn't doing awesome. But you can see that it is doing what I asked it to do, which is replacing the third character. I could make my prompt a lot better by making it by making a dynamic sonnet there, but let's not spend too much time onto making it great. Let's spend some time on making it run on Agent Core itself. So what's the limitation I have right now with my model is I'm running it on my own compute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my definition of my agent within LangGraph, and I'm doing a different model there for a different agent there for my deployment. But bear with me, it's going to be the exact same thing. So I'm giving it different tools, I'm giving it different things there. But once I have my file, my definition of my agent using LangGraph, what I can do is define my entry points and then have it hosted on top of AgentCore runtime. So this is super easy to do because the only things that you need to implement in the end are two REST endpoints. One is going to be called /invocations, and the other is going to be called /ping, and then everything is going to fall into places. The only thing you need to do is basically build out a container. So I've run that for you just before. And it is super easy to do with the starter toolkit on the agent core side. So we have a few helper functions that allow you to do that in a super simple way. The only thing you need to provide are, well, your requirements, how to build your container itself, and then the code that you're using. So here I'm using this code, and then I'm passing it on to code build to build out my container. I'm going to show you what it does on the AWS side. If I look at code build, what I've done is I've executed the build of a super simple container here. So if I look at my project detail, you can see that I am taking all of my artifacts from S3, and then I am building a container. And it is important here to note that Agent Core requires you to build ARM containers, so this needs to be ARM64. I strongly recommend that you use a CI/CD pipeline to build out your containers so you don't have to have any constraint onto your development environment. That's what we're doing here, and that's what the starter toolkit is going to do for you anyway. So very simple to do. And once this is done, it's going to give me a container that is available within the Elastic Container Registry. So if we look this up here, and if I look at my registries, cool. I have my LangGraph container that is built and that has arrived into my registry. The next step will be I need to launch it as a AgentCore runtime. So again, I'm using the startup toolkit, so it's doing all the work for me, and then in the end, it's going to show up into AgentCore. So if I go into my console and on AgentCore, you can see all of the components that Ari was showing you before. So we have runtime, we have a built-in tools with our browser, with our code interpreter, we have gateways for all of your MCP needs, we have memory, and we have identity. So here, if I look into runtime, I can see that in that particular account, I have one runtime, which is the one I created for you, and it is right here. So it does point to the container that I've created before that will run my LangGraph for me once I execute. It has an endpoint, it has versions. If you want, you can have a look directly into the console to see what would be the code to execute an invocation of that particular runtime using Bodo 3 in Python or using TypeScript or using any other form of JavaScript right there. Keep in mind that wherever you're going to do the invocation there is going to need to have the authentication scheme that you've defined. And it is going to have to define a random or a specific session ID, depending on whether you want to share the sessions or have specific sessions for the need of your application. But it is pretty simple to set up. Once we're done with that and we have our runtime, we can check for its status. In my case, the status is ready. So I'm going to do an invocation. And here I have my runtime, I have my LangGraph agent that can do basically mathematics or provide me with the weather. So I can ask how much is 2 times 2 or 2 plus 2. I can ask what's the weather right now, and I can send that invocation. And here the difference between what I was doing before and what I'm doing now is before I was executing the agent, so I was executing LangGraph directly from my notebook. I was using the compute that I am reserving with that particular notebook. What I'm doing now is I am using AgentCore. So if I have more sessions, if I have a lot of parallel sessions, all the session isolation is going to be managed by AgentCore. If I need to scale out with more microcontainers, this is going to be fully managed by AgentCore. So all of that is a lot easier to set up. So you can see that I get my response, and my response has more than just the response itself. It has the response embedded into it, but I get like the status code directly from AgentCore. I get a request ID. I get a bunch of headers that give me information onto the execution itself, but I can process that and I can get just the response. And I can see that here. Here it says the weather is sunny. It is a nice day outside. I can invoke it with Bodo 3, so the same code as what we had seen before. And we can ask a mathematical question now. What's 203 plus 45 here? And we can get the response here. So again, we're using LangGraph as the execution, as the framework for the definition of our agent. And then we're using, if we're looking at layers, really, what we're doing is we're defining our agent, in this case with LangGraph. We're calling an inference platform, and in this case, we're calling Amazon Bedrock on the back end. I've used two different models in the demonstrations I've shown you. So I've used Sonnet 4 for part of the generation of my sonnets. Then I've used Sonnet 3.7 for all of the orchestration. And then I've used local tools for the execution of everything that you've seen so far. And then I'm using AgentCore runtime to actually run the agents. So you can really see this as three different layers: agent definition, the inference platform, and then the agent execution. And AgentCore makes it super easy for you to use whatever framework, whatever platform for inference, and then execute your agents in a super simple way. All right. So this is like the basic demonstration there. Are there any questions on the chat or things that you would like to see for this particular demonstration? And I can prepare for another demonstration if you guys have still time. I have more things to show you, but I want to make sure that this is what you want to see and that this is going in the right direction. Feel free to do reactions, put things in chat if this is going in the right direction, and then I'm going to show you more things since we have a bit of time.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in or raise your hand or whatever you feel more comfortable. We know we had had a survey folks filled out to see the different frameworks. You know, there were folks that were doing homegrown, some were doing lane graph, a wide variety of different frameworks. So if there's any questions around that, let us know too. Okay. Oh, so for the deployment, are there known infrastructure as code options? That's a good question.
It's a very good question. So right now, as Agent Core sits, you have two choices. You can do the uh, Agent Core starter kit that does the deployment, but not the management of state, or you can do direct API call that also does the deployment, but not the management of state. We are rushing towards our GA for the service, and for GA, we have plans of having support for CloudFormation and CDK. So you'll have your choice on infrastructure as code, but it is not available as right now. We're really rushing towards GA. We want that to be before our annual conference in reInvent. So it is really a matter of days before you can see an infrastructure as code solution to come in. And I know Terraform is a very popular ask. It will be a fast follow. The Terraform AWS provider is open source and it is supported by both HashiCorp and AWS. We want that to be supported as soon as possible. So stay tuned, but it's coming.
We also have a question here about if there's a Discord channel for this. Currently, there isn't. That's something. It's an interesting question. We have to see what we could potentially set up there. And there are, I don't, there are some, depending on who your account team is, there are some potential with Slack channels too. Um, that's something we can follow up with you.
Uh, Absolutely. So if you're working with your AWS account team, we can set up shared Slack channels. So reach out to your AWS account manager. We can absolutely be part of a Slack channel where we can discuss with you. I love the idea of a Discord channel. We'll bring it up to the service team. We need to be able to scale. So it's not necessarily easy for us to monitor and answer on a lot of different channels, but I really like the idea. Let's see what we can do there. Going to try to fix the problem that I had before. My example was really broken. I'm going to try to provide you with a much better example there. So
Yeah,
give me
while Jean's doing that, if more questions, feel free to throw them in. And you can do that. We can, if you feel more comfortable, raise your hand and all too.
So maybe to go back to the different ways of hosting. In the end, if you're using your own frameworks, please raise your hand there. But we can help you with setting up the environment. What we need to have in the end is a container that can answer to two REST endpoints. It needs to answer to slash invocations and it needs to answer to slash ping. On slash ping, it should answer that it's healthy whenever it can. Of course, if it isn't, you can send a different response, but the expectation is the container should be healthy and answer. Now, on the slash invocations, you need to just be able to get the messages and then answer with the payload. This is all defined within the documentation. Very easy to set up. We've had a wide range of frameworks tested. So I've shown you with LangGraph, we've really had a lot of customers implement their own framework with either Java, Rust. I've seen interesting implementations that use Node and Python, obviously. I have yet to see others. We're super interested to see what you guys come up with. I'd be interested in maybe a quick vote on the chat here. How many of you have been trying to use AgentCore so far?
I think
And
I can, I know from the signups, I can give a rough idea too. I think we
thanks,
have.
Nathan. Love the engagement there.
Yeah, we do see, like, from the folks that had registered to attend, there are quite a few that have tried out Agent Core as well. Um, there's a mixture of different frameworks, as mentioned, the Lane Graph, Strands SDK, uh, folks using Agent Core, Crew AI, um, other homegrown. Oh, interesting. So, Gary used the browser use. Were you using that with Nova Act, or curious if you're familiar with the Nova Act model that we have? So, Nova Act is our model for browser control. If you go to nova.amazon.com, you just sign in with your normal e-commerce account, and you can see it will have instructions how you can uh, make use of Nova Act. Oh, Playwright.
Playwright is a great interface. Nova does support Playwright as an interface as well. The main benefit you'll get from using Nova Act is you get a model that has been trained specifically for managing browser usage. So pretty it is pretty effective, and in terms of price to performance, it is really well placed. So if you have any way of testing Nova Act SDK and or um, the Nova SDK or um, sorry Nova Act SDK or Nova Act itself, it would be absolutely awesome.
Are you bringing up one more demo, or?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Building right now, and I'm going to share it with you guys as soon as I can. So I'm currently rebuilding. I've fixed my I fixed my code, so now it should do a better job. I'm actually deploying it on Agent Core runtime. Let me share my screen. Will be slightly more entertaining, I hope.
This is the links to Agent Core too, just while Jean's pulling that up.
Yep. So here I'm currently redeploying. very easy to deploy, and status is ready. So I'm going to send message to my agent. Let's see if I've managed to fix it. So it's going to take a bit because I'm using two different models there. Oh, of course, I've broken it. What did I break there? So let's take it to let's keep to the important part. What I've done is I've changed my code there and I've pushed it to my registry. So I have pushed a new version of my container. And my apologies for the botched part of it there. Here. So I can see that I've done a modification of my container. Modification of my container worked well, with demonstration that my previous container worked really well and my second container didn't. I think I've done a small mistake in my in the definition of my decorators there. So I'm not invoking the agent right, but that is pretty easy to fix. So we can fix it in a super simple way afterwards. But you can see that I have a new I have a new container, and then I'm pointing my agent core at the new version. So agent core is really easy to update, and as we've demonstrated before, it can run pretty much any runtime, any framework. You can see that I have a new version. It's associated there. So very easy to set up and to do modifications of my code and make sure that I can invoke the right version based on what I'm trying to do. So in terms of deployment and in terms of management of your agents, it's going to make it so much easier. And you'll also get the benefits of having all of your observability because if you send your observability to our OpenTelemetry collectors, then you'll be able to get all of your sessions, all of your traces, all of your metrics without having to rebuild all of that. And again, we can have that deployed in a super simple way. So I'm going to show you again the code itself for deploying my agent is really super straightforward. So here I'm using so here we have our code right here. And what we're doing really is we are creating the runtime and we're using our starter toolkit to deploy it. All of that is going to trigger the creation of our container and all of that. Keep in mind that you can do all of that on your own as well. If you don't want to use the toolkit, just the only thing we're asking is that there is a container, that this container is available through ECR, so our container registry, and then that you point your agent core runtime to the right thing. So let me run you through that maybe one more time, but this time we're going to use like a super simple, sorry, we're going to use a super simple demonstration. So that's the demo that I had at the beginning. So here we have our agent has two tools, the get weather and the calculator. I'm going to test it locally. So here it's going to do its job on the line graph side, and it's going to tell me what the weather is. Then I'm going to push it to agent core, make sure that I have all of that deployed as my as the execution part of my container. Goes to the ECR registry, builds out my agent, builds out my runtime. once this is all done, I'll be able to see that my deployment is either ready or my update is failed. In this case, it should work super straightforward. Here you can see that my build started. What I showed you before, so if I go to code build, same thing here. My build is in progress. It's going to give me a new version of my container. This is all coming. All right. Okay, my container is now ready. I can invoke my agent. So the super simple agent that has both calculator or weather available is now rebuilt and pushed to my agent. And when I call it, I get my answers. Same thing if I call it, so I can just have a look at my answer. And if I call it with Boto 3, it's super simple to call as well. So you can get creative there. If there's any framework that you guys are currently using, we'd love to hear about it, see how we can deploy it within AgentCore. There's really no difficulty there. It is meant to be as flexible as possible. You can use any models, any provider there. You can use any framework as long as it implements the runtime endpoints, so invocations and ping, and then you can deploy that to AgentCore with absolutely no difficulty. So here you can see that it used my second tool and it gave me a good answer. Another thing that we wanted to maybe show today is that you don't have to run only agents. You can also run MCP servers. So it is super easy to define within AgentCore a runtime that is going to run your MCP servers. So I know there's going to be an ambiguity because we have both gateway and runtime that allow you to run MCP servers. The thing you should look into is gateway is going to allow you to define targets that are either API REST APIs or Lambda functions, and we also have a few built-in integrations that you can decide to deploy. But here, if you look here, what we're doing is we're creating a fast MCP server. So our fast MCP server can be deployed locally. So same thing, just like we did for the agent. We can take our MCP client and run it here locally. It's going to be able to use our MCP server and it's all fine, but we want to be able to do that within AgentCore. So to do that, we need to define authentication. So here we're going to define a Cognito authentication, but really it works with any OAuth v2 provider there. And once we've deployed our container that has the MCP, and it needs to be a streamable HTTP interface there, we're going to be able to run it within AgentCore. And then we can, from any of our MCP clients, be able to connect to our MCP server without having to host it anywhere. So very easy to set up. And again, here, this is a super simple implementation of an MCP server using FastMCP, but whatever you've done for the implementation of your MCP server can be done within AgentCore, and would be super interested to see what you guys will do with that as well. Is there a question on the chat there?
Oh, just asking where the recording. So we're working on that and we'll share out to folks. We have the previous recording too for folks that missed that.
And keep in mind, so here, so we can check, I can see that my status is ready for my MCP server. So if I go to AgentCore runtime here, I can see that I have my MCP server and I get my invocation URL, and my invocation URL is going to use, here we show invocations directly. This is here, cool. I have my endpoint, and my endpoint is available. So that's my authentication, I have my runtime, I have my endpoint, and I have my version. So if I go back to my demonstration there, I'm going to try to connect to my MCP server. And you can see all of the tools that I've defined all the way up here in my MCP server that are available on my remote MCP server. So here, this is all hosted by AgentCore. I do need to have an MCP server running, but I need to have authentication and authorization that are correctly defined. Your URL is going to be something that looks like this. So you can see your Bedrock AgentCore, the region you're going to, your runtime, an encoding of the ARN for your MCP server, and then your slash invocation qualifier equal default, and then it gets you to your MCP server. So very easy to set up. It does have a pretty complex URL to it, but it makes it super easy to host. And then we can invoke the tool. So here, let's invoke one of the tools. We're connecting to our MCP server again, so we're creating a new session basically, and then we're testing out one of our of our tools there, the addition, multiplication, and then we're testing the greet, which is going to just give us a simple greeting. So very easy to set up. So what we've done in the session so far is we've shown you how we can create a runtime that has pretty much any framework. We did it with LangGraph, but again, as long as you can have the right decorators, AgentCore Starter Toolkit is going to help you deploy that super easily. If you just want to implement the REST endpoints, then the only thing you need to do is answer to the right TCP port with the right REST endpoints, and you're done. You can implement it the way you want. And then we've shown you how to deploy an MCP server. Everything that we've shown so far is available as part of our AWS samples repository. So we're going to post that in the chat just after. But if you have any questions, please reach out to your AWS account team and we'll be happy to walk you through how to do your implementation of your agents or your tools within the AgentCore runtime and gateway primitives.
It's okay if I pull up the, yeah. Yeah, for folks, let me just put this in the chat here. We have a couple of links if you feel comfortable. So first is our feedback survey. If you feel comfortable filling out the survey, any feedback for us is definitely appreciated so we can, improve these types of sessions. The second, before we forget, is our Mission 3 is next week, same time, 11 a.m. PDT, Friday the 26th. And we have two of our teammates, Aiden and Rakesh, are going to join to go over how to build agentic AI solutions using our developer tools, Q and Caro, leveraging AgentCore. So I just want to get those out there. But yeah, if folks have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, raise your hand, whatever you feel more comfortable doing. Are there any questions you have around this or things you'd like to see even for we're going to do future sessions. If there's things you'd like us to dive into in subsequent sessions, let us know too.
I'm sorry for showing you code that doesn't work. The problem was strictly between the keyboard and the chair. I thought it would be super fun to show you like a completely custom agent, and I should have deeply tested it before. So none of the problems you've seen have anything to do with the service itself. It's just me writing stupid code.
It's all good. All good. Do folks have any questions? Anything you'd like to know a little bit more about? Feel free, like I said, raise your hand or type it in. Otherwise, we appreciate everyone taking the time to learn more about AgentCore and how you can use it with land graph or other homegrown solutions. Definitely come back next Friday to learn more about Q and Caro with AgentCore. And if you fill out the survey, we appreciate it. Feel free to put in any ideas or comments of additional sessions you'd like to see. If you'd like us to dive deeper into any of it, MCP, the runtime, whatever would be good for you all, is definitely helpful.
And what we might go into more of patterns. So show you, hey, how do we define multi-agent patterns? How do we actually split the work in between different agents? How do we do multimodal things with AgentCore? Feel free to reach out if you feel like there's something you would like to see there. Yeah, thanks again for coming, and reach out for any questions.
Thanks, everyone.